good morning. How are you? It's so nice to see you. Gonna make yourself a little coffee, a little drink for this one. We'll have a proper catch up. So this is the first vlog of 2024, which is about 4 weeks later than I was planning on. Honestly, we have had a shocker this January, an absolute stinker of a start to the year. So if you too are feeling like 2024 has not got off to the start that you were hoping and dreaming of, don't you worry, I am right there with you. We have literally just been a house of the grossest illness. If we were some kind of like Game of Thrones household, we would literally be the house of the grossest illness. I think I mentioned in my last video, but I kicked off the year with a 2-week chest infection and antibiotics, absolutely bedridden. We had about 3 days of respite and salvation when everything was on the up and things were looking good. And then a couple of weeks ago, after work drinks one night, Adam ventured into a takeaway that was just about to close and purchased some food, and that was a bad decision. I guess that's the short version of why it's been a tough couple of weeks in this house. But we're very good at looking after each other. We are each other's #1 priority, which is really nice. And he's feeling so much better now, and he's actually back in work this week. So yeah, it kind of feels like we are now at the 75th of January. I am all about fresh start Feb. I'm so ready for it. So if you'd like to join me for that, we'll just use January as like a practice run, and it's almost been like a hibernation. So if you'd like to join me in fresh start February, I would welcome you onto that bandwagon. And we're resetting, we're going again. And something that I'm really kind of encouraging and pushing myself to do this year is show up more around here, show up online a lot more. Having had like a much slower start to the year than I thought we would, the one silver lining of that has been that I have been able to spend a little bit more time thinking about the roads I want to take and the routes I want to take, the destinations I want to get to and how I want to get there. I have been able to dedicate a bit more time to thinking like that than I normally would do when it comes to kind of like goals for the year and putting myself into the new year headspace. I normally find it a little bit intimidating, and I've always told myself that like it's unrealistic and it's not helpful, and I really kind of rush through that bit of the year most of the time. But I've actually given it a lot more thought than I normally would, and I've found it really helpful, to be honest. And while I was kind of thinking about all that and what I really want to achieve and what I would really love to kind of squeeze out of the next 12 months was this kind of idea of allowing myself to show up as much as I want to. The past couple of years, I have really fallen into a trap with YouTube and Instagram as well, everywhere really, of just feeling like I don't have anything that anybody needs or wants to hear. That kind of thinking where you harbour it so naturally and you tell yourself it so kind of quietly but constantly all the time, that you don't even realise you're thinking it. And it's not until you say it out loud that you realise how harsh it sounds. Like if you were listening to a friend say these kind of things, you would want to shake them by the shoulders and be like, can you hear how mean you're being to yourself? Like, stop that. Of course you have things of value to say, and of course you deserve to show up. And that word actually has kind of ended up being my key word for the year, because I've really, over the last couple of years, fallen into this headspace that I just don't deserve this space online that I've created for myself. I've tricked myself into thinking basically that I don't deserve to show up and share my thoughts, and I don't deserve to have lovely people engaging with that. And a big part of doing this kind of social media stuff is that it comes with some opportunities that I just cannot fathom. Like some of the things that have come my way because of this, I still find really difficult to believe that I've created for myself. And a huge part of it is that I just have really convinced myself that I just don't deserve any of it. You know, I'm not going to sit here and list missed opportunities, but like there's no way that I should have been turning down things like that. And it was just because I didn't think that I deserved to take up that space and to live big and to kind of seize those opportunities with both hands. I haven't been convinced that I'm deserving of any of it for a really long time now, and I just don't want to think like that anymore, you know? I want to believe that I am a good person and I deserve good things to come my way. And I really am going to work on genuinely believing that. So if that kind of rings true to you, maybe if you've been really holding yourself back and turning things down, or not allowing yourself to really go for things, you know, like throw your all into it, then we're gonna work on this together, and we're gonna start saying yes to more things, and we're gonna say, I'm a good person and I deserve good things to come my way. So a big part of that is me remembering to be a little bit more vulnerable on here. I think I've really lost, because of the overthinking. I can't even tell you how the overthinking about showing up online controls everything that I decide to post on here. And I believe it's important to kind of like consider what you're posting, but the extent of the overthinking that I am punishing myself with is just holding me back far too much. Hoping that finding a little bit more vulnerability and showing up a little bit more will help me kind of drop that overthinking mentality a little bit. I didn't really intend for this vlog to get off to such a deep and meaningful start, but deserving is totally my word of the year, and I've just really made a conscious decision this year that that is something I'm really going to work on, and I would love to improve that for myself. So now we're all on the same page, and maybe you can kind of understand why I've disappeared. There's a few reasons why I've disappeared slightly, but that's certainly been a really controlling factor, and I don't want to give that power anymore. So with that in mind, my coffee's now gone cold, but I'm just kind of pottering around today. I carved today out as a day off because I did some work at the weekend, and today is a proper pottering kind of day. There's going to be a constant stream of hot drinks. I'm going to be shuffling around in my slippers. We're going to do a bit of housework, and I think I might actually do some baking. I'm going to clean this room because it's been really neglected while Adam's been poorly. There is an actual divot on the sofa where he's been resting. So I'm going to dust, I'm going to hoover, I'm going to clean, I'm going to wipe. And freshening up this room is going to make a really big difference to our evening tonight. Ah, somebody else wants to say hello. I think she's actually screaming at me to feed her, but I'm gonna interpret it as she wants to say hello on the vlog. Here she is. Looking wild and feral as usual. How you doing, madam? Can you hear that purring? Did you have a good sleep? Okay, fine, let me feed you. Just realised that I filmed that whole thing without any lip product on. I've got a new fave actually that I'm kind of a little bit addicted to. This has been my fave for probably like 6 months now. So it's this brand called Summer Fridays, and this is basically like a really glossy lip balm. They call it a lip butter balm, but it's basically just like a really glossy balm that's got a slight kind of caramelly tint to it. But then I realized the other day they now have this version. This is their take on these like really trendy lip oils that everyone's into at the moment, and this is my new obsession. I went for the darkest shade actually, which is called Rosewood Nights. It's giving Pretty Little Liars. And it looks very brown on the packaging and the applicator actually. Once you've got it on, it looks like a gloss, and I really like the vibe of it, but it's so comfy to wear. But yeah, this is a current little fave actually. I really like this one. Highly recommend. Okay, what next? Maybe while I'm up here actually, I'm going to sort all this stuff out. I washed our guest duvet over the weekend because it's been the illness duvet over the past few weeks, and I need to put all this washing away. So let's get that done first while I'm up here. Saying yes instead of no. I thought I saw you at the bus stop, I didn't know. I hit the ground running each night. A puppy! Look what I did the other day. So I love this jumper. I picked this up in the Florida outlets last time we were there. It's this like cropped Adidas sweatshirt. I just love it as like a really cozy, comfy jumper. And I stupidly wore this to clean the bathroom the other day. Why is it that you always end up cleaning the bathroom or like using bleach or something in your favourite clothes? Like I do it every single time, I swear. But look what I did. Classic. And I was already so grumpy, I was in such a bad mood, and that was literally the icing on the cake. Other than turning this into like some kind of like 70s tie-dye moment and bleaching the whole thing in some kind of jazzy pattern, I'm a bit short of ideas for how to rescue that. If anyone's got any hacks and tips and tricks for what to do about bleach marks. Right. But it's clean. Cleaning is officially done. We're looking very lovely in here actually. I'm really pleased with that. Didn't take me too long, a couple of hours work, and it feels so lovely and fresh in here, and now perfect for a nice cozy evening. Getting to grips with this room though has reminded me of two things which I potentially shouldn't have been reminded about, but I feel like, well, one's necessary anyway. One of them is that I think we need new inserts for our sofa. I really don't want to buy a new sofa because don't want to spend that money right now, and I still love this sofa. Like, this is such a great sofa. It's had the amount of use that a sofa should probably get over like 10 years, like through lockdown, the pandemic, working from home, me working on the sofa all the time. Like, it's just had way too much use for one little sofa. So I'm thinking it might be a smart move to just get new inserts for the cushions and give it a refresh that way. So if anyone's ever done that, please can you let me know if it was successful, if it made it feel like a good new sofa, and where you used. And the other thing that I've realised, I've actually been thinking about this a lot recently, and now that I've like cleaned the room and made it look all lovely, I think I'm pretty much convinced, but let me know what you think. I think I want to paint the whole room pink rather than just this wall on its own. I think I would like the whole room to be this pale pink colour. Let me know what you think about that. Okay, let the baking games begin. I've just had an absolute rummage through the cupboard and salvaged as much as I possibly could. By some miracle, I think I've actually got everything I need for this. Whether some of it's in date is perhaps another question for another universe. Has this sugar been in the cupboard since the dawn of time? Did this sugar come before man himself? It's possible. We've got strong white bread flour, say that fast 5 times. We've got icing sugar, brown sugar, cinnamon, vanilla extract, milk, butter, caster sugar, yeast, and eggs. And therefore, anyone who is passionate about doughy, sugary snacks will know all too well that I am about to make some cinnamon buns. It just feels like the right time of year at the moment for me to have a little supply of cinnamon buns. I have made these a couple of times before. They've always turned out very successful, but with baking, you just never know, do you? You just never know what's gonna go wrong. Okay, first I need a bowl. That would be a good start. There's only one bowl for the job, isn't there? Let's be honest. The old faithful. And honestly, rather than like teaching you how to do this, because that's not knowledge that I have to impart, or kind of like talking you through what I'm actually doing, I'm just gonna put the recipe in the description box down below. I thought it would actually be more interesting, rather than talking you through the cinnamon bun recipe, is to talk you through my goals for the year that I mentioned earlier. Using my hands while I'm talking, I'm gonna take my jewellery off. Oh, I'll show you this as well because it's really cute. I got one of my like common Christmas presents that popped up this year. I now have these all around the house, is ring dishes, because obviously it's a hilarious, lovely novelty that I'm wearing a ring these days. So I now have like little ring dishes by each sink. I have one by the bed, I have one by my desk, you know, just in case I need to take them off for any reason. And this is the one I've got in the kitchen. How cute is this? I think it's from Oliver Bonus. Yes, it is. Adam bought me this, and it came in a pair actually. The one by my bed is a strawberry, and they came in a little pair together, and they're so cute. So I mentioned earlier that I wanted to spend a little bit of time setting myself like proper goals for the year. I just felt like I needed a little bit of extra direction, I think. And rather than just kind of winging it like I normally do and clinging on to my seat by my fingernails, I thought it was probably a good idea, seeing as it could be, kind of is going to be a big year, to give myself just like a little bit more structure. Nothing that feels intimidating or unrealistic or crazy or anything that's going to make me feel inferior or bad if I don't manage to achieve it, but just a network of goals. I saw a podcast episode that was getting recommended by loads of people when they were sitting down to kind of do their goals list for 2024, and that was an episode of Grace Beverley's podcast. I'm sure you know who she is because she's like a mogul, but if you're not familiar with her, she's just like a social media giant, and I found it super helpful in terms of like a bit of guidance for how to set goals rather than falling into the hole that I always fall into with stuff like this, which is just writing down a list of wishes. And I've got a lot of time for wishes, but if you want things to actually kind of like improve or change, you need to swap some of the wishes out for actual goals, and that's what this podcast episode is all about. I'll link it in the description box for anyone who's interested. And I decided that I was going to set myself 5 goals for each category. So I've got quite a lot to be working on. Some of them are bigger than others, some of them are really small. The only problem is I need to open up my notebook to remember what they are and show you them, but my hands look like this. So let's just keep crumbling this for a moment. Crumbling butter like this into baking is such a nostalgic feeling to me. When I was little, when I was growing up, I used to do a lot of baking with my nan and kind of like stand on a stool in her kitchen, and we'd always be baking like scones or apple pie or something like that. And it's kind of that like half gorgeous and lovely nostalgia and half that really kind of sad tugging nostalgia. Okay, that looks good. So let's get this flour off my hands and then I can tell you my goals. So anyway, back to this podcast. The exercise that I found really helpful and that I definitely need a little bit of guidance with, so I'm like really glad I listened to it, was this idea of not just like listing your goals, but figuring out the actions that will get you to those goals and the actions that turn into something that you can keep track of and manage and like check in with yourself to make sure you're still doing them enough to see progress towards the bigger goal. Because I think where I've stopped in the past and kind of held myself back a bit is not figuring out the actions that I'm going to take to get to those goals and just kind of dreaming that they'll happen, you know, and I'll kind of just like manifest my way into them. The first category was personal development, and my 5 goals are improve/establish my personal style, read 52 books, improve my discipline across a working day, bring the house up to a sellable standard, and continue going to therapy. And then just to like give you an example of how I've then translated them into habits that are like achievable and trackable, I am going to create some kind of fashion content over on my Instagram once a week, read every single day, even if it's just a page, set myself out a content strategy for the month and try and stick to it every month, do something that improves the house every week, even if it's just the cleaning, and attend therapy at least 45 weeks of the year. So the second list is like the things that I can kind of like keep track of in my notepad like I have here. So these are now my daily habits, and I just write the dates and then do a little scribble if I manage to do it for the day. Second category is relationships. So number 1, prioritize love. Number 2, be a thoughtful friend. Number 3, socialize more, slightly tragic. 4, be a present and supportive daughter. 5, plan a wonderful wedding. They all seem quite big as goals themselves, and when I wrote the list I was like, how on earth do I turn these big dreamy goals into actual habits? I'll tell you how. Prioritize love then becomes monthly day or date night. Being a thoughtful friend becomes remembering birthdays every month, sending birthday cards, sending cards for celebrations. Socializing more becomes having a weekly plan with girlfriends. Being a good daughter turns into seeing my mum every other month and calling her once a week. Planning a wonderful wedding I've turned into making some kind of wedding progress once a week, whether that's like reaching out to venues or, you know, bookmarking things on Pinterest, or I don't know. And then just to give you an example of how I'm tracking them, so these are now my new weekly habits. Here's my list of weekly habits now. Here's the days of the week, and then as you can see I haven't been doing very well. Oh, hang on, I'm gonna come back to you for the next one because I need to heat some milk and I need to concentrate on the flame.
Third category is finances, which is something that I did actually want to have a little look at this year anyway, because I just feel like I'm completely clueless. Like at no point in my life have I been taught how to like manage finance properly, or like I've never spent any time educating myself about the best practices or anything like that, and it just feels like a massive hole in my education as an adult. I wanted to make sure that I, you know, read some books and listened to some podcasts and all that kind of stuff this year, so that was something I wanted to think about anyway. So my 5 goals for that are to feel confident that my money is in good order, to invest a certain amount, to make a certain amount in my business, to have a certain amount sitting in my savings. And the 5th one is a little bit random, but I feel like it is finance related. I want to look into air miles and like how to effectively gather and use air miles. I think most of the time it involves a credit card. So that's just something that I really want to look into, because I feel like we're missing out. And then obviously moving those into habits, I have turned those into reading a specific book that I really want to read about finances and investments and all that kind of stuff. There's things that I've been putting off for ages, with like setting up different types of account and moving money into certain accounts and stuff, so I've listed that as something that needs to be done. The one about having a certain amount in my savings, I've turned that into moving a certain amount of my salary into savings every month, like a percentage of my salary to stick to move into savings every month. And then utilizing air miles is kind of like a smaller task in itself, right? Like that's just going to take sitting down for a couple of hours and researching. Okay Google, play Folklore by Taylor Swift. Sorry if that just set your thing off.
The album Folklore on Spotify.
Oh, I bet that's just changed Adam's music. This is linked up to Adam's Spotify account.
Rebecca rode up on the afternoon train. It was sunny. Bristol Park's house on the coast took her mind off St. Louis. How did a middle class divorcee do it?
One of my favourites. Okay, this has got approved now, so be right back. Time really flies when you're making cinnamon buns. Someone put that on a fridge magnet. But I've made good progress. We're on the home stretch. The dough has been rolled, the filling's been put in, the rolls have been constructed and created, and they are on their last 10 minutes of proving now. So I'm just waiting for the oven to heat up. It just occurred to me that I haven't actually finished telling you what all my goals are. Hopefully this is useful though. I don't know if it's remotely interesting, but when I was doing these, I was like, I could actually do with hearing what other people's are to get some inspiration. So I don't know, maybe this will help. The next category is actually career and business, which I just feel is like too specific and niche to me to bother telling you those ones. I feel like they're so individual and personal. But the next one is attitude and mindset. And out of all of the categories, I would say this was the one that I found the most difficult to think about how to turn this into like actionable habits or something that wasn't just like say affirmations. Like how else do you work on your own personal mindset? So the first one is something that I'm always trying to do, which is practice gratitude. Number 2, set aside self-care time. Number 3, stay focused on my goals. Number 4, no more holding back. And number 5, I am a good person and deserving of good things. So the last 2 are pretty much what I was talking about earlier, which has been such a big problem for me over the past couple of years. I think this set are particularly interesting because I think they actually tie in with a lot of the other ones that I've already told you about, because obviously your attitude and your mindset is so wrapped up in how you're spending the rest of your life and the rest of your time. So I actually think that the habits that I've got for these ones are habits that I've already got in other categories, which I thought was really interesting and is such a great example of how your surroundings and your lifestyle, you know, kind of reflect and affect your mood and your mindset all the time. But for practice gratitude, every Friday I'm writing down 3 good things that have happened in the week. Set aside self-care time kind of ties in with my plan to continue my therapy, but I'm also gonna set aside an hour a week, just an hour a week, to look after myself a little bit and remind myself that I deserve to look after myself as best I can. Staying focused on goals, I feel like that's just a case of, you know, checking in with these and seeing how I'm getting on and kind of keeping things quite measurable and trackable. No more holding back really ties into showing up online every day, which is a huge part of my career and business ones. And I'm a good person and deserving of good things. I have actually tied into a little bit of a daily affirmation, but I just feel like that sounds so cheesy. And what I've actually done is make a vision board, which I've set as my laptop wallpaper. And vision boards, again, are another one of those things that I was like, what a waste of time. But I did actually spend half an hour making one at the weekend, and I really enjoyed putting it together in the end once I dedicated a bit of time to it. Maybe I'll pop it on screen actually so you can see the kind of thing I've gone for. I will have to blur out a few things because there's a couple of things that I'm not allowed to show you yet, but you'll be able to see things like working on my personal style is down here. My word of the year, deserving, is bang in the middle. It's your year, a lot about kind of like mindset and positive thoughts. There's a nod to wedding planning, there's a nod to working on the house, there's a picture of Adam and I for prioritizing love, there's a picture of girls hanging out together, there's pictures of kind of like prioritizing my work and showing up online. So it's just kind of like a visualization of all of this stuff together into one life, I guess. And setting that as my laptop wallpaper has actually been really motivating to see first thing in the morning every day. Honestly, it's actually like a really nice start to the day when I go to my desk and I have my coffee and I open up my laptop, and everything that represents like what I think would be positive additions to my life and my mindset is just like all in one place, ready to greet me every day. I actually highly recommend it. So rather than like looking in the mirror and repeating things to myself, I've kind of just been like taking a moment to look at everything on my little vision board, which I know just sounds like I've lost the plot, but honestly I feel like it's making a difference, so bless my little heart. And last but not least, the sixth category is health, which is the one that I am reluctant to talk about too much because I just feel like it's a minefield, and everybody's health and definition of health is so personal to them. One is to continue my enjoyment of joyful movement, which is something that I talked about quite a lot before, but it's basically just moving your body because you want to move your body and because it feels good to move your body. And the habit that I've turned that into is using the Peloton twice a week. Another one is taking my daily supplements, which is a habit in itself. I didn't really have to stretch my imagination too far for that one. Another little habit that I've set for myself is to close the green ring on my Apple Watch 5 times a week. That's kind of like the minutes that you spend moving basically, and that can even be like while you're out for a walk, and I think it's like half an hour. So it's basically just make sure that I'm out and about moving myself half an hour 5 times a week. And last but not least, I feel like this is a classic one, is to up my water intake. So I've set myself the challenge of 3 litres a day. I drink a lot of water anyway, so that's not much of a stretch for me, to be honest. So they are officially the goals that I've set myself for this year, but more importantly, the transfer that I've done between goals into trackable, achievable, like satisfying habits to take a little look at, that are just like tiny little improvements in my daily, weekly, monthly routine. None of them feel insanely unrealistic or intimidating or like I'm going to just be constantly chasing something and feel unsatisfied. They all feel like things that are really realistically in my grasp, and if I can just introduce them in a nice gentle way into the routine that already exists for me, then it's going to lead to really good positive things across the board. And then putting them into a little tracker. I'm sure a lot of people would prefer to have this on the computer, but I'm very much a pen and paper scribbling kind of girl. Not actually that much when you pop it all into a list. So like my daily habits now are read every day, show up online, my like kind of affirmations, taking a moment to put my brain together basically, taking my supplements and drinking my water. They're my daily habits that I need to keep on top of, and when you put it like that, that doesn't sound too shabby, right? And then my weekly ones I showed you earlier, and my monthly ones are all translated into having a content strategy, which is something that I have literally never had in place, and I'm slightly skeptical that it will work for me, but we'll give it a go. Date, day or night, the birthday cards and having a birthday list, and a list that kind of takes notice of people's special days, making some wedding progress, saving a percentage of my salary, attending a work event, and then a little bi-monthly one, which is a trip up north to see my mum. So there you go, that's how it kind of realistically turns into something not too terrifying. Anyway, more importantly, cinnamon buns are smelling absolutely incredible. Adam is actually just on the way home from work, so it's gonna be like he's marrying some kind of domestic goddess that's baking fresh cinnamon buns when he walks through the door from the office. Hey honey!
Oh!
I'm literally just recording taking them out the oven.
I'm having one of them. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, good.
Right, you realise I'll be coming home to a homemaker.
I just said to the vlog, I was like, I don't know when I've turned into like a 1950s housewife. Like you walk through the door from the office and there's homemade cinnamon buns.
Homemade cinnamon buns. They look banging.
They smell so good, don't they? Also, don't you think it actually smells like New England? When I started making them, I was like, this smells like the holiday.
The whole place just smells like cinnamon. Can I have one of these for like breakfast?
Yeah, probably. I was going to put some icing on them.
Hell yeah. That's kind of the fun, isn't it? When it's just like, oh yeah. I want that one tomorrow morning.
Is this too much icing?
Sorry?
Is this too much icing?
I think it's nice that you got quite a lot of icing on there.
So Adam treated me to a little present the other day to say thanks for looking after him while he's been poorly. And it arrived earlier, but I didn't want to open it because, I don't know, it felt weird to open a gift that he had brought for me when he wasn't here. I didn't want to just text him and be like, I've opened the present that you bought me. I do know what it is, but I'm very excited to see it.
Hello everyone.
Long time no see.
There you go.
You've got some proper curtains going on.
Yeah, I know. Well, my haircut in like months.
Yeah,
and it just
overdue
recently,
haircut, I think.
In the morning it like looks fine, then throughout the day it just like turns into this like, hey, oh, it's good. There you go.
Oh,
you
it's
can
so
show it off.
cute. Oh, that's so good. Thank you very much.
It's alright.
So I feel like you will know this about me, but I collect pins, and Adam spotted this one the other day and was like, well, have to have that one for the collection. It's Marie from the Aristocats, and more importantly, it's Roquefort in this little biscuit and bowl of cream. Some of our favourite characters, which we associate heavily with ourselves. So we had to purchase this pin. It's a classic.
It's perfect. I
How
can't
does he
believe
eat his cracker?
he's just like.
Now that I have successfully drowned the cinnamon buns in icing, I think I'll call that a day. I'm hoping that when the icing is set and solidified and you can rip the buns apart, they'll look slightly less ridiculous than they do right now. But I'm just gonna sign off for today, I think, because we are about to... Well, should we watch a True Detective?
If you can handle it.
Well, we've started the new series of True Detective, which is on Now TV. It's season 4, starring Jodie Foster, and I don't even know how to describe it. It's set in Alaska, and it's like spooky snow demons. We've only watched one episode so far.
Yes.
But so far it's absolutely terrifying.
I don't think it's as terrifying as your. Maybe you don't like facilities, and there's like a facility with
It's
flickering
based in
lights.
a facility with flickering lights. So I'm not sure how many episodes of this I'm going to be able to stick with, but I'll give episode 2 a try.
Good.
And if this one gives me nightmares in the middle of the night, then I might have to reconsider. But highly recommend all of the True Detective seasons, actually. So I think that's all I've got to say today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Hope you enjoyed a little baking sesh, a little goals brainstorm. Oh, and that's the dishwasher. So first of all, I'm going to go and unpack the dishwasher.
You're gonna get that on camera.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you are doing really well, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.